Welcome back. Good to have you with us. We have a very international feel to our business desk this morning, don't we?
Oh, we certainly do. Rofhiwa is out in the Netherlands at The Hague, and she has been really keeping us abreast of developments over there. And Rofhiwa, very good morning to you. Actually, what time of day is it there? Is it morning?
I think it is morning.
Very... No, it is indeed. We are on the same time zone for now while they enter their autumn season. Tammy, Gareth, good morning to you both. And indeed, we are in the Netherlands in The Hague this morning. And this is day 3 of what we've been experiencing in terms of trade relations between South Africa and the Netherlands. So yesterday we got to see one of the green hydrogen plants that is currently being built in the Netherlands. And this is to provide hydrogen energy to the European Union, but also other key markets. And the opportunity here is for South Africa to become a market that not only creates hydrogen energy, but is able to export it to the European market, because it does consume more energy than it's able to make. The problem is that you need electricity to make hydrogen energy, you need water to make hydrogen energy, and South Africa has got a problem with both. But in the engagements with the different stakeholders yesterday, it was said, well, you can harness solar energy and wind energy to make the hydrogen energy, and also look at the desalination process of seawater as an example. So there are ways of working around South Africa's problems, including the ports, critical investment coming through from there. So today is the big day where we get to meet His Majesty Willem-Alexander. He is the king that's going to be visiting President Cyril Ramaphosa on the week of the 18th of October. And we're all looking forward to that, to say, what is it about South Africa that makes it so attractive to the Netherlands? And that's what's happening on this side of the world. But back home in South Africa, we had vehicle sales that came out, that data coming out, and really just not looking too great when it comes to local sales of new vehicles, but also the export market on the decline as well. And the export market is a key one for South Africa's automotive sector. To speak more about that, we've got ABSA's Vehicle and Asset Finances, Fulufhelo Mandane, who joins us this morning from Johannesburg. A very good morning, Fulufhelo, and thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about the domestic market when it comes to new vehicle sales. Consumers are obviously being impacted by a number of factors. What exactly are the biggest drivers for the decline in the sales for September that we saw?
Good morning to you, Rofhiwa, and the viewers. There's been various external factors such as high fuel prices, challenges in transport and logistics, Eskom's energy demands, you just spoke about the energy just now, and the comparatively higher interest rate cycle have exerted pressure on the automotive industry, which obviously the other big one on the sales side of things is the affordability pressures currently experienced by the consumers in South Africa. Just to give you a good feel around what happened is that the aggregate domestic vehicle sales in September sort of showed us about 46,000 units reflected, which was reflecting a decline of about 1,963 units, which is about a 4.1% drop from year on year if you compare to last year. But the biggest drop came from the passenger side of the market, where the passenger vehicle sales dropped by 8.4% compared to the previous year, same time, which you can just imagine that's where most of the consumers are playing at this stage.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And what about the export market? I mentioned in my intro, Fulufhelo, that the export market is a key one for South Africa's automotive sector, but that also saw some declines in the reporting period. Talk us through that context, but also the broader implications thereof.
Yeah, just on that, if you were to think about the background around that, is that the export industry in South Africa, and if you just think about the automotive industry at large, it contributes about 4.9% to the GDP, and that's about 12.4% of the South African total exports is in the automotive industry. The industry accounts for about 21.7% of the country's manufacturing output, and vehicles and components are exported to about 152 international markets. One will be concerned about the drop in the export space, and the biggest concern in this case will probably be that more and more countries in Africa are starting to participate in the vehicle assembling activities, which gives the OEMs options beyond the South African borders going forward. And I must say that although we're seeing a decline, the vehicle exports for the year to date are now sitting at around 8.3%, which is ahead of the same period as last year. The new vehicle sales for the year to date is sitting at 2.5%, which is also ahead of the same period last year.
Now, the export market is also something that also has to face things like the electric vehicle market, which is on the rise. You've got economies like China that have ramped up production, albeit with slow sales. That is eventually going to pick up. And I'm wondering if our export market won't eventually be impacted by a demand in electric vehicle components, which our automotive sector, many would argue, has been slow to ramp up.
Yeah, we are seeing more manufacturers ramping up their production of fully electric vehicles across Europe and China, as you mentioned. And the sales are starting to pick up slightly. Although in South Africa, there is still a huge tax burden on all new vehicles produced in the country with no benefit to low-emission vehicles. On the positive side, though, we have seen some manufacturers starting to ramp up the production of new energy vehicles in the form of hybrids in the country, which is a step in the right directions if you can think of it. And we also witnessed an increase in the launch of fully electric vehicles in South Africa. And we recently welcomed BYD in the country, which is one of the biggest EV manufacturers in the world coming from China. So I generally think that we are moving in the right directions, although it is moving at a very slow pace. And we do need to guard ourselves against not meeting up with the overall demands of the rest of the world.
Which, of course, are going to continue to grow, as you allude to. Finally, the outlook, Fulufhelo, if you could, for the automotive sector in South Africa. We have interest rates, we've got the power cuts, even though they are at lower stages. But these pressures remain, and there are some risks and shocks that pose themselves to the industry. So based on those, what would you say the short to medium-term outlook is?
That's a very good question, Rofhiwa. The outlook for the South African vehicle market overall remains optimistic because we are still seeing some green shoots in some parts of the industry, such as motor vehicles, parts and accessories, and other transport equipment grew by 9.5%, which is contributing about 1% to the GDP. But the one concerning area, even though the Reserve Bank maintained the repurchase price rate at 8.25 in September 2023, consumers' affordability remains a concern. There is a decline of about 0.3% in household disposable income or consumption expenditure, with household debt surpassing household disposable income by 62.5%, which is impacting consumer affordability negatively, putting more pressure on the sales of vehicles. Additionally, the industry faces potential upward pressure stemming from an elevated inflation outlook, fluctuations in the exchange rate, rising fuel prices, and increased energy costs. That will have an impact on the cost of manufacturing vehicles and obviously the cost of vehicles themselves. But with that said, the market should remain flat for the remainder of the year into the near future. As long as our economic activities remains the same, there shouldn't be much of a change in terms of how the performance has been going so far.
Fulufhelo, thank you very much. We do actually have an interview with the Governor Lesija Kganyago this afternoon at 5 o'clock on the show today with Mandane Moyane, and he will engage us on that consumer expenditure as well as increasing debt compared to the income that gets into the household. But thank you very much for your time. That is ABSA's Vehicle and Asset Finance, Fulufhelo Mandane, joining us this morning on the South African Morning. And I must say that it was for the first time, speaking of electric vehicles, that I got to see a Tesla vehicle in the Netherlands. Quite a few of them actually, quite common, used as taxis and as private vehicles, and also electric charging ports in many along the streets in different parts of the city, in the port of Rotterdam as well as The Hague. So these things are developing, and we can only hope that it's something that will become common in the South African market as well.